Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. This is our second video for today. We are talking about the Bad Batch Season 1 as a whole. Once again, we have Tony back with us. We mentioned him in a couple other videos beforehand, so we are very excited to have him back. But like I said, this episode is to talk about the series as a whole. And so we're going to give our thoughts on the overall picture, and then we're also going to talk where is this thing maybe heading, and we'll kind of give our thoughts on that. I'll go ahead and start it off. My thoughts on the series in general. I remember watching the Clone Wars, and when this group came into the scene, and to a point, I thought it was slightly out of place, not knowing that Bad Batch was going to be a thing, just because they were a little piece of the show and then they were no longer on there. But seeing that the Bad Batch actually was going to have their own show made a lot more sense. So I became more invested in the characters. And when the first episode came out, that was, I think, like an hour long or something like that, I thought the first episode was so good. And I was very, very excited for the show. I think it was the second episode. It didn't necessarily like match my enthusiasm as the first one.
It was a lot shorter.
Yes, definitely a lot shorter. It was like cut in half. But this show like really started off talking not only about the Bad Batch, but like the transition from the Republic to the Empire and being Team Empire. I like seeing, where did the transition really happen between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope? Because really all that we had was we used to have clones, and at least I assumed, the first batch of stormtroopers were clones. And this show, talks about all that good stuff. It talked about not only the Bad Batch and the Empire, but also brought in a new character, Omega, and I liked Omega. I thought the character was interesting, especially finding out that she was one of them. She's not the exact same, so to speak. We found out in the show that she was, or we can assume she doesn't have the growth accelerator like the Bad Batch does. We didn't really get a clear cut point, I don't think, of what her special ability is, like how all the other ones have like a specific thing in mind. I felt like she was more of a jack of all trades kind of a thing, because she could shoot, she had tactics, like with the games when she was with Sid, when they were gambling and winning a bunch of money. But with that being said, I kind of felt like, in the way that even I'm describing, there's so many things going on, to a point I felt there was some sort of a lack of focus in the show, especially with some of the fillers. Like I said, I was right out of the gate, very excited, Empire, Bad Batch, and then it kind of shifted to focusing on Omega, and then it shifted to focusing on the Bad Batch's debt to a character that they met, and we were stuck there for a couple episodes. And then it kind of finished up with the Bad Batch wanting to bring Crosshair back into their group. One thing I will point out about the finale is that I felt it was slightly underwhelming. Simply because I felt like there wasn't enough either surprise factor or addition of lore in the episode. I felt like when I watched part one, I could have predicted what happened in part two. I was really hoping just for like one little snippet somewhere in there that was gonna give maybe a hope or expectation of what to expect from season two. Like if we had seen what they're trying to clone with the Kaminoan scientist, even a flash of whatever it was. I know we saw in The Mandalorian like a figure in a tube at an Imperial base, and we kind of got an idea of something that was going on. Maybe we could have saw an early version of what was in that tube. just basically anything to build off of it. I don't know how you guys end up feeling about that, but I felt like the show was entertaining, but lack of focus, so to speak.
As far as the ending goes, I will agree with you there that there's no real clear cut um, preview for what season 2 is. It almost feels like if they hadn't already announced that season 2 is coming, I could easily think that the show is done and that's it. Like there's no cliffhanger.
I will say, after watching the episode, I was pretty disappointed that Disney announced season 2, because in the episode there was at one point, I forget who said it. Somebody had said like, oh, I think it was Crosshair. He had said like, "You're gonna get us all killed," and the fact that I knew season 2 was coming, I was like, well, maybe. I highly doubt any of these people are going to necessarily die or get seriously injured. There was the one character that almost died, and that was the droid. But Omega went after the droid and saved the droid.
Good old AZ.
So I wish Disney would have waited and maybe done what they did with, I don't know if they announced Loki season 2 before or after the last episode, but it said like at the very end in like an end credit scene that he's coming back for season 2. I wish it would have been more like that for Bad Batch. Because yeah, if it would have ended without knowing there was a second season, I probably would have assumed that the cloning was going to move towards cloning the Emperor. Because if you haven't read it already, Disney did announce how the Emperor came back from episode 9 and it involved cloning. This could have been some sort of connection there. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the series. Tony, what did you think of it?
A lot of similar things to what you said. So, yeah, when I first saw these characters in the final season of Clone Wars, I thought it was like a super cool idea having a team of, genetically enhanced clones to do, like special missions and things like that. I thought that was like a super cool idea and kind of a different take on the clones and stuff. And then when it was announced that they were getting their own show, I was like, oh, cool. I really like the team in the Clone Wars and stuff like that. So I was pretty excited. And then when the first trailer came out and it showed that the show was going to handle, as you said, the time between Jedi and A New Hope, and I thought, oh, that's a super clever, interesting idea. I can't wait to see what happens. And I do agree that the first episode started off just super, super incredibly strong. And I really enjoyed the first episode, and I was really excited to see where it went. And then the episodes, the next few episodes I thought were still good, but they weren't quite the big bang that the first one was, which they all can't be like that, because if you keep doing that, then it, whatever. So
we did have a lot of good ones.
Yes, and there were definitely some standout episodes for sure.
But it was a little shorter of a season.
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes, typically, Clone Wars and Rebels, it was like over 20 episodes a season. So yeah, you're right there. The one huge issue I had with this show was when they did not like one or two, but like several filler episodes. Because I thought the way they set it up, you have the time between Jedi and A New Hope, you have how the clones got from...
You mean Sith.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Sith to A New Hope. And then you had how the storm, what would become the Stormtrooper army went from clones to the troopers. And I just was in for the character arcs of all the clones. I thought or of the Bad Batch, I think they all had very unique personalities and things like that. And I loved the action scenes with all of them together, which just personal nitpicky thing. I was sort of selfishly upset that Crosshair didn't come back to the fold, because I really liked them as a team together. But I hate with a fiery passion filler episodes. I hate them. And it's the show started off strong. And I don't want to make it sound like I didn't like the show. I did. I loved the show. I thought it was super entertaining and had some good thematic meat to it. But the arc that it started, I was super hooked on. And then once they started working for that lady in the cantina,
Sid.
and they did like several episodes of that, I was like, what are we doing here? Did we like completely forget about how this show started? And I get occasionally shows have like one or two filler episodes, and I don't like it, but I can kind of tough it through. But it was like 5 filler episodes, like at least. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, like what are we doing here? Like, did we just ignore everything that just happened? But anyway, they eventually got back on track to the stuff I was interested in. And then I thought those were the episodes where they got back on track, so to speak, were really good. The finale, I enjoyed, and I thought, like we talked about in the last video, there were a lot of moments that I really, really liked. But I can sympathize with you, and I even probably agree that the direction for the next season is not very clear. And obviously you don't want to like give away completely what the next season's going to be, but yeah, there wasn't even like a hint or a little little carrot dangle, saying like, ooh, like this is what we're going to do. So that, I can see that being a little bit frustrating. I think that, or maybe my hope at least, is that now that the remaining Bad Batch members and Crosshair are like permanently split now, like they're not mending fences here. I could see the Bad Batch kind of helping wherever the Rebel Alliance is, in wherever next, because they already one of the episodes, one of the filler episodes, had that one character from Rebels when she was younger. So they could maybe go help a rebel group or whatever, and then they'll constantly meet each other, because Crosshair will be with the Empire, and then just on missions they'll like constantly meet with each other. Because I think other than obviously what the Rebel Alliance stands for, what the Empire stands for, I think the constant thematic thread is, what does it mean to be a good soldier, and things like that. And I think those two I keep wanting to say Quicksilver for some reason. Crosshair and the remaining Bad Batch represent two different answers to that. So I think they're kind of the same side of or the different side of a coin, and then they're going to like constantly meet each other, and obviously they'll probably explore the switch from cloning to volunteers a little bit more. But anyway, in conclusion, overall, I really enjoyed the show. I don't know if I would recommend this show or really any of the animated shows to non-hardcore Star Wars fans, because I don't think that they are for them. I think they're for people like us who are like super, super into it. So as a Star Wars fan, I really liked it. And I think just a consumer of film and cinema, I think it was also a very solidly constructed story. So, and one last thing, if I may, I think why I ultimately liked it, besides the multiple filler episodes, is because throughout the show, I felt something. And I consider myself a film buff. And I didn't go to film school, or I just watch a lot of movies and listen to film pundits. So I have like something resembling an idea of how to analyze film from, like a production standpoint or a thematic standpoint and things like that. I'm by no means an expert or anything like that, but my rule for myself is that all of that doesn't matter. How things are constructed or written or whatever. if I feel something, then it is good art. If the art makes me feel something, it is good art. Yeah, and this show did, regardless, despite all its faults or whatever, it made me feel something. So if it made me feel something, I think it's good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A couple of things that you mentioned, I had never really thought about whether I'd recommend the animated shows to people or not, and I think I totally agree with you in the fact that if you're a Star Wars fan, yes. If you're not, I don't know if I would. I would definitely not introduce Star Wars as the animated shows
Sure.
to anybody, especially since it's a long-term investment, especially with the Clone Wars, with it being like 7 or 8 seasons, something like that.
Okay.
So as somebody who hasn't seen the Clone Wars, me, I would say I still got enjoyment out of the season. I still really liked it, but you also got to keep in mind two main things, right? One is who I'm married to, so he fills in all the background. But two is there's a lot of subtle things that he picked up in the show along the way that he knew the background behind that I had no idea. And it's not necessarily that I totally didn't enjoy every episode because of that, but I'd say there's probably at least 1 or 2 episodes that were harder for me to understand because I just didn't know any of what was going on behind the scenes. So if you're going to start watching the animated series, this is probably not the one that I would say to start with. Would you agree?
Definitely not the Bad Batch. That I would say you'd have to at least watch the Clone Wars. Potentially, that way you get some sort of introduction to what's going on, and especially also because the Clone Wars, where it left, really sets up where they are because Clone Wars ended like mid Revenge of the Sith, and then this picks up mid Revenge of the Sith. So I would recommend watching the Clone Wars first before this. This is probably technically Clone Wars season whatever after the final season.
Yeah, I've heard some people call it like whatever, like season 7.5 of Clone Wars.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
There's a couple things that we didn't really touch on, and one of them being character development, right? So at least that's kind of one of the big things that I enjoyed watching throughout the season because I didn't know all of that background. So that's more what I focused on was the relationships between the characters in the current show. I really liked the way that the Bad Batch interacted with each other. I really grew to enjoy Omega. I didn't think she was some bratty kid like I was kind of anticipating her to be just because we didn't know her at first. And usually you might think that a kid in such a dangerous environment might be a nuisance, and she really turned out to not be, and so I enjoyed that. I liked AZ, the robot towards the end, which sometimes introducing a new droid can either be good or bad, right? We had Do from, what was that from?
Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, so like I really did not enjoy him, but AZ I thought was pretty cool, and I liked him, and he didn't even really do anything that was that crazy, but he was still just an enjoyable character for me. I would say though, one of the characters that I didn't like so much would be Echo. I just felt like he really didn't add much to the story at all. I feel like if you plucked him out of there, you'd have pretty much the same show that you already had. There wasn't really any like big saves that he did or really big lines adding to the story element, or not really a whole lot of relationship building with him. There might have been like a one-liner here or there with Omega, but there really wasn't much else that he did.
Don't forget, he impersonated a robot and was sold and then broke out. No one
There
ever
was this.
Didn't he
Forget about that, but
didn't he save the team or whatever in that one episode where they were trying to help a family get off planet or something like that, and he had to like hack the system or whatever? Didn't that something like that happen?
I don't remember.
It was one of the early
but I
episodes,
don't
but
remember it.
yeah.
But I think that's kind of the thing is that he wasn't super memorable.
Yeah, that's fair assessment. Yeah, I can't fault you for that.
I will say, I mean, to go along with that, whenever I thought of the Bad Batch, it felt like he was the one that was least amount on screen. I felt like it was the majority was Tech and Hunter, and occasionally Wrecker for the comedic relief.
I love Wrecker. He's
Too.
probably he's my favorite.
Yeah, I agree.
Same here. I cannot.
Well,
wait.
he was Echo was joining the team was introduced in Clone Wars,
Hmm.
and perhaps they didn't know that they were going to do a show about the Bad Batch, so they kind of had to include him, or they'd be weird. But yeah, he really wasn't front and center a whole lot. He just echoed everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of wraps it up besides what you guys already mentioned.
So I remembered one more thing I wanted to mention, and the fact was that this very much felt like a Filoni show. And what I mean by that is there was a handful of plugins that just seemed to be like, here's some, if I was Dave Filoni, here's some cool things that I did in the past. I want to make sure that they are reiterated in this show. So like we saw those two girls that were in the Clone Wars, and I understand that they relayed to, I think it was Rex, I'm assuming, that they had seen the Bad Batch. But other than that, even though the Bad Batch gave them the thing that was the whole point of the episode, I forget, it was like codes or something.
Codes from some droid's head.
And they were there for the codes, but they gave it to the girls, and then the girls never end up doing anything with it that we saw. There was
Cad Bane showing up for one
Yeah.
episode.
Cad Bane was there. One person we haven't talked about was Fennic.
Hmm.
Mhm.
We got to see a little bit more of Fennic in this show. We first saw her in The Mandalorian, and we got to see a little bit of her earlier years, so to speak. We never saw Boba. So, well, did we see Boba in this show?
I think he was name dropped, but I don't think we actually saw him.
I say because we didn't see if Fennec and Boba were quite a thing yet, like a duo, so to speak.
Yeah.
We didn't see that yet. But yeah, I felt it was a very Filoni show, and then there was a couple of other plugins. Like we saw in the very first episode, we saw Kanan as a young kid,
Yeah.
but that
Yep.
never went anywhere.
Yet.
Yeah.
I just, not to cut you off, I really just see those as like Easter eggs and nods, and it as long as it doesn't detract from the story that's being told, which I don't think they did, those callbacks, they don't bother me. And honestly, Dave Filoni is super successful right now, and he's cranking out some really good Star Wars entertainment. And if he wants to be like show off a little bit and kind of wink and nod, then I'd say go for it.
Yeah, I could agree with that to a point. I would agree with that in terms of like what they did with Kanan, just showing what he was as a Padawan. But like when he dedicated a whole episode pretty much to the two sisters.
Yeah,
that part
I can see that. That's fair. Yeah.
But
'Cause
otherwise,
I did sort of feel that with Cad Bane, because I really like Cad Bane as a character. And when he showed up, I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to be part of the season going forward. And then, he was gone the next episodes. And I was like, oh, never mind. Okay.
I wish I could have seen more of him. I liked him.
Clone
Yeah,
Wars.
he's cool. Yeah.
I will say that the face off between him and Hunter, I think that was one of the more cool parts of the show. That really
it leans into the Western elements
Yeah.
of Star Wars in general. So
yeah, definitely. I thought that was really neat. Tony touched on his thoughts on the future a little bit so far.
and it's pure speculation. That
Yeah.
was just the first thought that popped in my head after the credits rolled. It was just
Have
like,
you-
they're Rebel and Empire. They'll hope that fight, and that's just like my default thought on Star Wars things around this time.
I'm super curious what's going to happen with Crosshair, because he seems dead set on I'm just going to rejoin the Empire. But if we remember what we as the audience saw, the Empire is basically done with him. So I'm not sure it's going to be so easy for him to just rejoin like that.
It is true. It did seem very like they didn't care. whether he's
They might think he's dead.
Well, the one of the other officers who was not a clone basically said, well, he's joining the rest of the Bad Batch. He's joining the clones. And so that's when the one other officer said, like, well, fire away and just let him die with his brothers. So
That's right.
they probably, I would say, think that he's dead and also a traitor. Is my impression on that.
That would be an interesting dynamic. And to Tony's point of hoping that they are a unit, maybe within the first couple episodes, that's what's going to drive him to go back. Like if he goes to tries to go back to the Empire and they shoo him away.
Or maybe he'll do the default thing that characters in his situation in the Star Wars universe do and either become a smuggler or bounty hunter. Like, oh, this side won't take me, this side won't take me. Oh, I'll just be a bounty hunter.
Well, I think they're also going to wonder, how are you alive? Is the rest of your group alive? And either he's going to be honest and say they are, and they're going to wonder, why didn't you kill them? Or he's going to lie and say they're dead, and they're going to find out that he's alive, that they're alive, and now he lied to them. So I don't really see this ending very well for Crosshair, no matter how he goes back to the Empire.
For sure.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out.
Because, and also too, I just thought of this as we were talking, but I feel like at the end of the first season, the Empire is pretty dead. Well, maybe not because the scientist was with the Empire, but I feel like they're more or less set on the stormtroopers or the building their army from volunteers instead of clones. And they're probably using the scientists to, like you said earlier, clone the Emperor or whatever. So if they've pretty much made that decision, I wonder if Omega is still, being hunted or whatever. I wonder if or if her role is done with all this stuff, but who knows? I'm sure
it's gonna really depend on if they're assuming they're all dead or if they somehow find out that they're not.
For sure.
I feel like I'm in the same boat as when this season was announced. I really have no clue what's going to happen in the next season. I think just like what Tony said, they didn't give us a carrot. They gave us nothing. Even the Mandalorian gave us something with the fact of
first season ended with the dude holding the darksaber, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all you need. That's why I was saying, like, if they just flash something.
Yeah, just pan to something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean like how they showed the Kaminoan scientist? Was that not enough for you?
No, it wasn't. I knew that they already had them.
Yeah, and that could mean like 100 million different things.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned when I was talking about this stuff in the very beginning is that when the first half of the finale ended, I could basically say, okay, they have to leave. The Empire has the scientist, and Crosshair's kind of in limbo with everything. He could go either way. And that's what turned out to be in the second half, and nothing much was added to it.
I wonder how much time is going to elapse before season 2. Like, will it take place right after this one? Will it take place years after this one? Will Omega be like a teenager? I have no idea.
Speaking to the past animated shows, they typically don't have a ton of time pass between seasons, other than maybe season 6 and 7 of Clone Wars as kind of an exception, but typically it's fairly close. But you never know.
Because I mean, if they do skip a bunch of time, I feel like they're not really going to have an opportunity to let us know what's going on with Crosshair and the Empire, unless they just say like, "Oh, he's dead. He died 5 years ago."
Well, and also too, and I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but there's like 50 other Star Wars shows coming out between live action and animated.
Yep.
So maybe season 2 of Bad Batch starts with, oh, Crosshair's dead, and then in another show they'll address it, which is a possibility. Like I said, I don't know if that's a good or a bad way to structure stories, but
I'd like to keep it all at once.
I would too. I wouldn't like leaving huge plot points like that out there, but
It would kind of follow suit with Rise of Skywalker, with the Empire or Emperor just randomly being back
yeah,
alive, and then they filled in the gaps later.
yeah. On Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite was a part of it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was what it was because I actually was a part. I logged in and watched that thing live, and I had no idea that's what it was.
That's funny.
There was something else I was gonna say. What was it?
Oh, I was just gonna mention that and I mentioned this before in another episode I was on, but the animation is just getting progressively better and better and more lifelike. I mean, it still has like a cartoony shape, which is fine. But other than that, it looks more realistic compared, it's just getting better and it's just more visually pleasing to look at.
Yeah, I still stand by the fact of if you don't see a human, because that's what we're all used to seeing every day, I don't think it looks like an animated show. I think it looks real if you don't have an actual person we can relate to on screen. As soon as a helmet goes on, it looks like live action to me.
For sure.
The one thing I wanted to ask was if you could pick one cameo character to appear in season 2, who would it be?
Oh gosh, I gotta think of who's alive at that time.
On the spot.
On the spot. Holy smokes. I mean, a confrontation with Vader would be pretty dope. Or the Bad Batch finds some sort of Jedi that takes on a Sith of some sort. That'd be cool.
Can I get some background on Greedo?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
I think they could do some sort of like funny. I know we don't like filler episodes, but I could see there being some sort of filler episode where Filoni just makes fun of Greedo shooting first or something the entire time. Like he hits everybody first.
Yeah. Or I would need to remember the timeline, but at this point, is Maul in control of the crime syndicate, or is he still in control? No, he's not in control of Mandalore anymore at this point.
Yeah,
right?
he's in control of Mandalore. I don't know where the timeline stacks with Solo, the movie, because he was something big in that movie. We didn't really know what, but
yeah. But a brush with his crime syndicate would be cool and kind of a face off.
knowing
that it's Filoni, I could see the Maul one happening the most.
Who'd you pick?
I think what might be cool is running into Cal Kestis from Fallen Order. That's the latest Star Wars single player.
Which I have downloaded and I'm going to start soon. So I meant to tell you that earlier. So
I hope you have not seen the commercials that ruin the ending, because there are ones out there.
Because that was a game, because I saw it was in the style of Dark Souls and I like immediately dismissed it. So I didn't really watch a whole lot of the marketing. And I've heard from some people that it's not as difficult as Dark Souls, so I'm going to try it out. So yeah, I haven't really seen anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I played it. I'll say it right here on camera. I played it on easy. I'm not ashamed to say that. I tried it out on normal, and I got about to the halfway point, and there was one character that just handed me my butt, and I turned down the difficulty. I said, "I'm here to enjoy this."
Exactly.
I want it to be that way.
Yep. But yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. Really, because there wasn't a whole lot of like Jedi stuff in this, which is fine. I think that's healthy for Star Wars to focus more on the war part of Star Wars. But yeah, some sort of Jedi interaction other than murdering them would be cool.
Yeah, I would agree. Did you say which character you would like to see? Oh yeah, Greedo. That's right. I was just making sure. I'm making sure you're included.
Well, that was a serious answer. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like things that are fun. I thought it'd be fun.
What about Wicket? What if Wicket shows up?
Wicket, I don't know that they'd be old enough, would they? How long does an Ewok live? I don't know.
That I don't know, but as far as like Empire stuff that we could see, they could be like we could see how they first sieged Endor and started building the base.
I would dig some indoor scenes.
That'd be
I
cool.
like me some Ewoks.
Yeah, just stuff like that. Because I mean, I know Star Wars stuff, but I don't know everything. So I don't know when
What?
I don't know when Death Star 2 was officially put into production. So I don't know if that's this timeline or not. I know the first one is definitely in progress.
Mhm.
Because when speaking to the finale, I thought when Tarkin said you may fire when ready, I was waiting for another test run shot of the Death Star, but looking back, I feel like the first official one was Rogue One, which was much later
Mhm.
than what was going on. So I still actually liked what happened. Um, yeah, I enjoyed that little.
Another plausible cameo would probably be Saw Gerrera, because he
Oh
used to
yeah,
pop up a
this
lot.
one.
What?
He was in this one.
Oh, he was. Yes, duh. See, look at that. I'm living in the past. I should run Lucasfilm. Right, duh.
To be fair, it was very minor.
Yeah,
He was in, I don't know, 5 minutes.
yeah. He might come back.
He could. He very
Yeah.
well could. Especially because the way he looks in this show is fairly different than what he looks in Rogue One and Fallen Order. So
Hmm.
there could be some sort of aging connection there.
Hmm.
One last thing I want to say, and unfortunately, it's not a positive thing, but when Tony mentioned the filler episodes, I will admit that is the part of the show where I eventually lost interest to a point because I remember saying to Sarah, "Oh, we got to watch Bad Batch," but I wasn't enthusiastic about it because it felt like it was just a Sid after Sid after Sid.
I was in the exact same spot.
I was worried, like very
Me
worried.
too.
So I feel like if they're gonna do filler episodes, it should be a little more spread out and don't throw them all in one chunk.
Or have them be more exciting.
Yeah, I'm good for like smaller adventures, but they still need to connect to the overall arc. Like that was my problem, was they completely detached from the overall arc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like if I'm gonna give any sort of service to Lucasfilm, if you're out there watching our little,
Which they absolutely are.
they absolutely are.
100%.
A little piece from our advice is please either spread it out or connect it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it, in my opinion, and I think it's probably same thing for you guys, it doesn't feel good to lose interest in Star Wars.
And to turn that around, to end on a brighter note, we say that because we love Star Wars.
Yes.
And we want it to be great.
Absolutely.
And we know that it can be great.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
I will say I am looking forward to a lot to the future projects.
Me too.
My comment about losing interest is not from Star Wars in general. You can ask Sarah.
Right.
I watch Star Wars at least once or twice a week, just in the background. So I look forward to Visions is coming out. I think my number. I feel like Tony is really looking forward to Visions, but
It looks so good.
I'm looking forward to. It's terrible. I don't even remember the name, but I think it's like Acolyte or something. The one
Acolyte, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Focus on the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
I am so ready for that one.
I bet you are. Lots to look forward to.
Interesting.
Yeah, we got that to look forward to. There's an Ahsoka show. There's the Book of Boba coming out this year. There's Mandalorian season 3 next year.
There's the Cassian Endor show. There's
Kenobi.
There's of course, the Obi-Wan show. Duh, yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
I would say that is a close second to the
yes
Acolyte show. It is up there.
Squadrons, which is shaping up to look really good. Patty Jenkins is an incredible director.
Yeah, that's a movie.
What?
That'll be a movie.
That's right. Yeah. Well, still, it's Star Wars project. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's December 2023.
Yep.
Can't come sooner enough.
Show wise, probably Obi-Wan's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, I am.
Just because that's the one I've wanted the most after all these years.
I think that one is gonna not. I know it's called Kenobi, but I think it's gonna give a lot of Vader as well. Those two went hand in hand in the prequels.
For sure,
And it's
absolutely.
the same thing.
They'd be very appropriate. Yep.
Yeah. Also, they got the same people. Like Hayden's back. I'm excited for that. Well, we're gonna wrap it up for this episode. This was our overall thoughts on Bad Batch Season 1, where it's going, and then we eventually trickled into where Star Wars going. Very excited for the future projects, and yeah, very excited. If you haven't already, please turn on notifications that way you are notified when more Star Wars discussions drop. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Drop us a like if you like this video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on Season 1 of the Bad Batch. Where do you think all this is going, and which cameo would you like to see in Season 2? And then, as always, everybody, we're going to thank Tony for being on the show. Thank you, Tony, again for being with us.
Of course.
Look forward to having you on here more. And,
absolutely.
We'll see you all later. Thanks, everybody.